The Consumer Goods Council of South Africa says retailers in the country are having sleepless nights over the possibility of instability that may arise, similar to the July unrest of 2021, over the rising cost of living, particularly food prices. The fast-moving consumer goods sector is one of the biggest contributors to the country's GDP and employs a large number of people. And with CGCSA releasing Q1 GDP data tomorrow, how does the Consumer Goods Council expect the country's economy to have performed in the first 3 months of the year? For that and more, we are joined by the CGCSA CEO Zinhle Tyikwe. Zinhle, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. I want to start a little bit back. Since the last time we spoke in February, you actually wrote an open letter to the President calling for more urgent action on load shedding. I wanted to start there and ask if anything materialized at all from that letter and cries for help that showed you as the sector that the government is listening to your concerns.
Good afternoon, Xolani, to you and your listeners. Yes, we have had small movements towards that because we have been able to meet with the Minister of Electricity, and we have been invited to be part of the NECOM committee where we are able to, from a demand and management perspective, so we are participating in those structures. However, we're seeing that there hasn't been real movement because, I think from our end, Eskom has been honest enough to let us know that we are in for a very long, cold and dark winter, and we need to be ready and be prepared for higher stages from now in June up until August. So that is a big concern for us. But as an industry, we needed to showcase and say that how do we then put in plans in place to make sure that we limit the impact of load shedding in our facilities.
Zinhle, looking at all of the stories that we've done on retailers that are spending R500 million rands in 6 months, in a year, 300 million from ShopRite to Pick n Pay, Spar, and many, many others. There is a serious concern about food security when it comes to the impact that load shedding is having. Talk about food security a bit, because it's a topic that we've spoken about a number of times, but coming from the sector itself, it raises serious concerns about the possibility that we might have a food crisis.
Definitely. CGCSA represent both manufacturers, mostly food manufacturers, retailers from food as well as medicine, as well as QSRs, quick service restaurants. These are all the food value chain or the cold chain of food. And that's why we want a government to understand the impact of load shedding in this whole value chain. Because, from a manufacturing perspective, if due to load shedding a recipe is disrupted, that whole recipe needs to be disposed of, and you need to start anew. And then that means that whatever product, that production line has to be stopped. It means that product cannot be produced at the right time, at the right temperatures, or at the right quality of food, for instance. But then it means that members have to stop that. So which is going to impact the retail and the availability of food on the shelves. Besides, on top of that, we have food waste that is happening within the retail sector, where they were not able to keep the cold chain levels up from a refrigeration perspective. So there's a lot of issues that are impacting the full system of food. And it's important that we understand, because we pride ourselves as our members as well as CGCSA that we ensuring that at the point of sale there's always food available, and we're going to continue to produce food that is safe for consumption and is secured for South Africans, full of nutrition. But at this point with load shedding, it does have a very big negative on that. And in South Africa we have more than 50% people going to bed hungry. And we cannot continue in this pace. So we're going to have more people going to bed hungry. The GDP, as you indicated earlier on, the numbers are coming out tomorrow, and there is a slight, economists are expecting a slight uptick from a 0.1 to 0.2 growth perspective, but that is not going to be such a significant growth for the country that needs to create employment and make sure that there is economic activity.
In a recent article, you said that, and it was quite hard-hitting, you said that you believe the retail sector and the fast consumer goods sector is the most important sector in South Africa, but you are feeding the country as well. But this is not how government sees this particular sector, and you spoke at length about how government is focusing on one particular area and neglecting others, and said that the actual the fact that the sector itself is resilient is giving mixed signals that the sector is going to survive stage 6 load shedding for a long time. Elaborate on that a little bit.
You see, I think for us, I mean, because we provide food, every home needs nutrition. Government pays SASSA grants, so forth, so that people can have nutritious food. Because of that, we believe that we are the most important sector. We are the ones at the forefront of consumers. We are at the outskirts of the country. We make sure that every South African have some sort of sustainable food, and our retail members are ensuring that they are available discounts at food, especially during SASSA payment grant days. We have the QSRs on the other hand, who are ensuring that they operate as efficient as possible to make sure that food is there. So we believe that we are the biggest, most important sector in South Africa. We might not be big from a contribution perspective, but we believe that we are second because we from an employment perspective, we are second to government, because we can employ from low-skilled individual to high-skilled individual. So there's no other sector in South Africa that can do that. We are one sector that we really need to be prioritized, because we saw that prioritization in July 2021 when KZN was running out of food. We had government ministers and officials coming to us, asking us to get the trucks to KZN and asking us to make sure that there's food availability. And we had to say, secure the route on the N3 so that the trucks can go. They are able to come to us in times of crisis. But other than that, when there's no crisis, when it's all, it's believed that it's business as usual, they know we're resilient, we comply from a compliance and regulatory perspective. We are really highly regulated, this sector, because again, there's food safety, food nutrition issues that we need to make sure that it's safe for consumption by the consumers and South Africans. We understand that, but then there's all these other regulatory issues that are coming into the input cost for production of food. Then we have load shedding that is just crippling our members. And if you have to think about it, we represent one of the big members, like the biggest members in South Africa. What about the SMMEs? Organizations that are at the township economy? They are struggling even more. They are not able to keep their businesses open. What we are asking government is that they must look and say, how do they make the NERSA process of to reduce that from 18 months to 24 months for an individual to be able to produce like as an independent power producer. That process needs to be streamlined. That process needs to be shortened, because then it means then we are going to be in this challenge of load shedding for even longer time if we're still going to continue with an 18 to 24 months process.
Zinhle, something that is quite worrying that has come from your office is that retailers that you represent have been told by security experts that the rising levels of crime could lead to riots similar to those that we saw in July 2021, particularly over the cost of living and food prices and the food security issue. Tell us a bit more about those experts that have told you that information, how you've interpreted it, and how the retailers are actually preparing themselves for a possibility of another unrest related this time to load shedding and food security.
Yes, I think for us, we do have a department within the CGCSA, which is called the Consumer Goods Crime Risk Initiative, where members on a daily basis are reporting elements of crime. So what we have seen is we collect that information over a very long period since the existence of the organization. And we've seen that trends are showing that levels of criminal activities, normal criminal activities, are slowing down, and it's high up when there's civil unrest. criminal activities are for civil unrest or service delivery issues, which means, for instance, it tells us that, and our experts in the organization is telling us that load shedding and failure to provide services to the communities impacts retailers, because we, again, as I said earlier on, we're at the forefront of our consumers. People are hungry, and looting is easy. We're the easiest targets, if I may put it that way, as retailers. So that is such a critical issue for us. And we are talking to law enforcement agencies. And we have seen with two big instances in South Africa where the law enforcement agencies were working with business. We were part of those engagements where we say, how do we secure our facilities? How do we secure our members' assets during these big activities or threats that were possibly going to be happening in the country? And we work together. So we're saying to them, let's continue in that same thread. Let's not wait until there's a big incident that is happening in the country, because I think working together we can curb crime, and we can make sure that we eliminate this element within the country.
Zinhle, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Zinhle Tyikwe is the CEO of the Consumer Goods Council of South Africa, chatting to us there about their concerns as the retail sector as far as load shedding, economic outlook, and of course food security concerns are concerned.